In the Theory of Knowledge exhibition, your task is not simply to present objects, it's to explore how these objects relate to the nature of knowledge itself. But what exactly makes a TOK exhibition object good? Let's break it down. To begin with, a good object is directly connected to a knowledge question. It's not just an item you like or find interesting, it must have a meaningful link to one of the 35 prescribed knowledge questions provided by the IB. The object acts as a real-world anchor, helping you explore that question in a concrete way. Let's say you choose the question, what counts as good evidence for a claim? A news article reporting on climate change would be a strong object. Why? Because it raises immediate questions about evidence, credibility, source bias, and scientific methodology. That article isn't just news, it's a gateway to TOK exploration. Second, a strong object often has a personal or local connection. It might come from your own life, your school, your community, or your cultural environment. This adds authenticity and shows personal engagement with the nature of knowledge. For example, if you use a science lab report from an experiment you conducted, it demonstrates first-hand involvement in knowledge production. Third, it must be a real physical or digital object. This includes things like photos, documents, online posts, screenshots, books, tools, or artifacts. The key is that it must exist. You can't invent an object from fiction or use imaginary symbols with no real-world grounding. Even digital items must be accessible, identifiable, and justifiable. Importantly, the object must support in-depth knowledge discussion. It should open up layers of meaning and analysis. Think of a literary text, for instance. If you connect it to a question like, how does language shape our knowledge, you can explore how interpretation, translation, and cultural context affect meaning. A good theory of knowledge object also allows for multiple perspectives. Can the object be viewed through different lenses, historical, ethical, cultural, emotional? Can you connect it to more than one area of knowledge or way of knowing? A protest sign from a political movement, for instance, could invite ethical reflection, emotional response, historical context, and even artistic critique. Another important quality is cultural, historical, or conceptual relevance. A good object isn't just useful, it also resonates with broader themes in society. Take an old medical instrument from the 19th century. When linked to a question like, how can new knowledge affect established values or beliefs, it enables a rich discussion about the evolution of scientific knowledge and its social implications. Crucially, a good TOK object invites reflection. It shouldn't just be a decorative object or a visual aid, it should help you analyze and evaluate knowledge. For instance, a museum label placed next to a controversial piece of art could spark dialogue about curatorial authority, interpretation, and ownership of knowledge. Now let's contrast that with what makes a poor object. An object is weak if it's too generic. Something like a pencil used for a question about creativity. It's too abstract and doesn't lead anywhere. Similarly, using a blank sheet of paper to represent imagination might be symbolic, but it lacks depth or real-world context. Objects that are purely decorative with no analytical basis also fall flat. A painting with no clear link to a knowledge question is just a picture. If you can't articulate why it matters in a TOK context, it weakens your exhibition. Also, avoid objects that are overly personal but not reflective. Your childhood toy might mean a lot to you, but unless you can connect it to a deeper knowledge question, it risks becoming sentimental rather than analytical. Another trap: fictional or unverifiable items. You must use real objects. Referencing an item from a fantasy world, unless it's being used as a source for how knowledge is created in literature, doesn't meet the criteria. Some students choose objects that are too abstract or symbolic, like a red circle to represent truth. These kinds of items are vague, and without a narrative or context, they fall short of TOK standards. Finally, try to avoid copied or overused examples unless you can offer a truly original take. Mirrors, maps, dictionaries, these are common. But unless you present them in a fresh, personalized, and analytical way, they might seem cliché. So how do you know if you've chosen good objects? Ask yourself, can I clearly explain how this object links to a prescribed knowledge question? Can I analyze it using TOK vocabulary, ideas like evidence, justification, bias, and perspective? If the answer is yes to most of these questions, then you're on the right track. In the end, the TOK exhibition isn't just about showing objects, it's about using them to reveal something deeper about how we know what we know. The best objects are not just interesting, they are intellectually rich, personally meaningful, and analytically powerful. Choose wisely and let your objects speak for knowledge.